All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Check, check, check. Mic check, mic check. All right, Shalom. You reached the He Pray channel. My name is Ozzy Muwath. But first and foremost, I want to say call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakach Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of 7, 13, 19, where I learned this truth from, who rule well. Salutations to the Backyard, the elect, the 144,000. It's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of men, women, and children. Shalom to those scattered throughout the four corners of the earth due to the diaspora and also a triangular trade, so our people will come looking like many ethnicities and having many complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that die in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, an honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baruch Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect.
It's lunchtime at the San Francisco headquarters of Wildtype, and company founders Justin Kolbeck and Aria Elfenbein believe that what's on the menu is nothing short of the future of seafood. Thin slices of salmon, not caught in the open ocean or even farmed in captivity, but instead grown in their lab.
For me, it was the sort of confluence of, okay, there's this potential technology that could address this really big problem that our society is facing. Very simply, where are we going to get enough meat and seafood for the next 3 billion people?
The samples are sliced from the cutting edge of an emerging technology known as cell-cultured seafood. And for the Wildtype founders, it's part of a larger mission. Kolbeck traces it back to his former career in the Foreign Service, and stops like war-torn Afghanistan, where he remembers speaking with fathers who snuck miles across the border into Pakistan to bring back food for their families.
It's those kind of stories that really stick with you. And, like, as a dad, of course I would do the same thing to, feed my kids.
Essentially, we have the cells that come out of the bioreactor.
We toured their lab, which, in its own classic startup story, was converted from a microbrewery. Now, expanded from beer tanks to bioreactors, it helps grow the living cells derived from Pacific salmon.
So this is our seed lab.
Co-founder Aria Elfenbein says the process ultimately nurtures the cells into a form of biological salmon tissue that's mixed with plant-based ingredients. To appreciate just how complex that science is, you might want to journey a few blocks away to Elfenbein's former life as a researcher at San Francisco's Gladstone Institutes. That's where Nobel Prize-winning scientists engineer breakthroughs, like turning lab-created stem cells into beating heart cells. President Deepak Srivastava remembers the day Elfenbein came into his office to let him know he was leaving to turn similar techniques into lab-grown salmon.
And sitting down and saying, Deepak, I'm really grateful for the training I've gotten here, but I've always been passionate about sustainable food for the planet.
He said, I really feel that this is something that you care about. And these kinds of decisions, I can already feel, is something that you have a lot of conviction around.
But that career-changing decision also came at a revolutionary time for the Earth's food supply, with Bay Area companies like Savor Foods introducing butter cultivated from CO2, and Berkeley's Upside Foods pioneering lab-grown meats and chicken. Still, Wildtype admits the next part of the journey could be convincing consumers to try lab-based seafood. To get started, the company has staged dinners, tastings, and partnerships with chefs.
And actually what ended up happening was it wasn't a big deal. The staff kind of introduced it as a third option beyond wild-caught and farm-raised. And a lot of people ordered it. In fact, we sold all of the fish that we had that first night.
So here we have our Wildtype salmon lox.
In the end, besides the taste, the long-term mission is sustainability, availability, and price. To create seafood that's affordable for everyone and a global solution that's far easier on our planet.
I think that's a future that feels like a far happier future. We're able to sustain the new humans who will be residing on this planet. And that's really our vision, is to have the most accessible, clean salmon on the planet.
Really remarkable work they're doing. And Wildtype salmon.
Yeah, so you see, this is the Gawalium, doing their thing, right? As you saw, nothing but a bunch of Gawalium in the video promoting this defilement. And guess who? And guess where they're gonna be selling that? They're gonna be selling it to Jake's pretty soon, man. Just like they sold that Beyond Meat. They had a big push for that. And then who's that guy? Carl Schwab that said you eat the bugs. That's what they're gonna be feeding you when you're idle with things offered on the idols. They're gonna be feeding you this defiled food, and they're gonna be offering you the sea hip, and you're gonna be in agreement, man. You know, all you individuals that are allotted for that fate. This is Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13. And Yahweh said, even thus shall the children of Yasha'Allah eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles. Gentiles dealing with the heathen nations, the Gawayim, right? Whither I will drive them, because we're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. You know, I'm gonna get the go to the blue letter and just look up the word defiled.
Strong's H 2931. Tameh. Tameh.
Which means unclean, impure, ethnically and religiously, ritually of places. So this is, you know, food that goes against the dietary law, and then this lab grown food, which is impure, you know. Well, I think I said that wrong. I'm talking about the unclean food is dealing with the food contrary to the law, statutes, and commandments, and the impure food, which is still unclean, is those laboratory grown meats, man, in the petri dish. Strong's definitions says foul in a religious sense, defiled, infamous, polluted, pollution, unclean. Let's see, what's the root word? Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It says right here, to be foul. Let's see what that means in the etymology. Lucky. All right, the word foul, Old English full, rotten, unclean, vile, corrupt, offensive to the senses, you know. Um, Let me see. Defile, verb, 14th century, to desecrate, profane, which profane meaning outside the temple. Mid 15th century, to make foul or dirty, also says to grate, to deflower, you know. So that's what these meats are, man. And, you know, it's already bad enough that there's so much pollution in the oceans. and then a lot of this fish is, uh, which Esau, he has doctored the radiation levels that they claim to be acceptable to counteract the rise from the Fukushima, and also the fish has a high concentration. Well, some of these fish has a high concentration of mercury. Continuing in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 14, it says, "Then said I, Yahweh, behold, my soul have not been polluted," which is what you have, what he's talking about, has he what he has eaten, he never ate anything that was defiled, right? Unclean. It says, "For from my youth up, even till now, have I not eaten of that which dieth of itself," which is part of the law, "or is torn in pieces, neither came there abominable flesh into my mouth." Let's look up the word. Well, hold on. Let me see. Go to see what it says in the NLT. This is the NLT. It says, "Then I said, O sovereign Yahweh, must I be defiled by using human dung?" Because that's what he was going to eat, right? And a lot of this meat too has human DNA and rat DNA. A lot of these meat are those missing children that you see on the milk cartons, or when you go into a neighborhood Walmart and you see the little missing bulletin board. It says, "For I have never been defiled before. From the time I was a child until now, I have never eaten any animal that died of sickness." But what does Esau do? He don't care if those animals are sick or not. He's just gonna give them all types of antibiotics and stack them on top of each other, man. Give them steroids so they can get bigger, and all no telling what type of chemicals this asshole puts in these animals, man. They're all sick. They're all close quartered. It says, "or was killed by other animals." And then, even with that, Esau would take the dead animals and make cosmetic products on you, which all that shit absorbs into your skin. Everything you put on in your hair, in your face, absorbs into your skin, man. And that's the reason why you see all these N dubs and these YNs going nuts. It says, "I have never eaten any meat forbidden by the law." And that's what Esau pushes, man. He pushes things that are forbidden by the law, statutes, and commandments, just as he did in times past, man. This is Second Maccabees chapter 6, verse 1. It says, "Not long." Let me see if I can switch. So this is the KG version. It says, "Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews, the tribe of Yahweh, to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of Yahweh." And that's what these heathen have been trying to do, man, or have done for the most part. But now a remnant is returning back to the Heavenly Father, which that remnant is the first fruits, the elect, right? And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympus, and that goes back to uh, which Jupiter, we can go to Jupiter, is a Roman god. I'll read about him in the Wikipedia real quick. It says Jupiter. It says the ancient Roman religion and mythology, Jupiter, which is day sky father or sky father, which is probably the equivalent of Yahweh to them, also known as Jove, was the god of the sky and thunder and king of the gods. Jupiter was the chief deity of Roman state religion throughout the Republican and imperial eras until Christianity became the dominant religion of the empire. In Roman mythology, he negotiates with Numa Populus, the second king of Rome, to establish principles of Roman religion such as offering or sacrifice. Hold on, I'm trying to navigate this thing. It says Jupiter is thought to have originated as a sky god. His identifying implement is the thunderbolt, and his primary sacred animal is the eagle, and that's the same uh, animal that Esau has used in preceding kingdoms, and preceding empires, and even today with the American bald eagle, right? Because it's the highest flying bird and it's the proudest and it kills for sport. It says, which held precedence over other birds in the taking of auspices, and became one of the most common symbols of the Roman army. The two emblems were often combined to represent the god in the form of an eagle holding in its claws a thunderbolt, frequently seen on Greek and Roman coins as the sky god. He was a divine witness to oaths, the sacred trusts on which justice and good government depend. Many of his functions were focused on the Capitoline Hill, where the citadel was located. In the Capitoline Hill, he was the central guardian of the state with Juno and Minerva. His sacred tree was the oak. The Romans regarded Jupiter as the equivalent, oh man, as the equivalent of Greek Zeus, right? And in Latin literature and Roman art, the myths and iconography of Zeus are adapted under the name Jupiter. In the Greek influenced tradition, Jupiter was the brother of Neptune and Pluto, the Roman equivalents of Poseidon and Hades, respectively. Each presided over one of the three realms of the universe: sky, the waters, and the underworld. The Ilic, the Illic, the Italic Diaspiter was also a sky god who manifested himself in the daylight, usually identified with Jupiter. Tania is usually regarded as his Etruscan counterpart. So I got a question. Oh man, is Jupiter, Zeus, and Yahweh the same God? So what does it say? Yahweh and Jupiter are not the same God, but they are related in the context of ancient mythology. Jupiter is the Roman god of the sky and thunder, equivalent to Zeus in Greek mythology. Yahweh is the Hebrew god, often associated with the concept of the sky and thunder, and is sometimes linked to the Roman god Jupiter. Both gods have Both gods share similar attributes such as being sky gods, but they represent different cultures and mythologies. In summary, let's see what AI says, man. Because this is just somebody's opinion on their website. Okay, let's see what it says. Zeus versus Jupiter, same role, different cultures. A distinct monotheistic deity. Yahweh is the name of the God of Israel, central to the Hebrew Bible. Unlike Zeus or Jupiter, Yahweh is monotheistic, not part of a pantheon, transcendent and moral, not anthropomorphic or capricious, historically rooted, worshipped by Israelites, not Greco-Roman societies. Syncretism. Uh, which that's not their perspective. Uh, Sometimes it's what you say. This is Copilot, by the way. Let me see. Hold on. And I know that both of these empires were multicultural. Let's see what it says. So I said Yahweh is the true name of the Hebrew God. So if they proclaim his name is incommunicable, wouldn't Yahweh be injected in an extension of Jupiter and Zeus concerning those are Edomites, not Israelites, in the land of Israel, as Edomites both were the authority in both Rome and Greece? So let's say Yahweh versus Yahweh, and I'm just going with the spirit. I know the I guess you could say theme of this videos dealing with the foul bread, but spirit is taking us here. So Yahweh versus Yahweh, name war rooted in identity. Yahweh is the pronunciation favored by many Hebrew Israelites, especially GMS, based on Paleo Hebrew transliteration. Yahweh is the scholarly reconstruction used in mainstream academia and Christianity, which we all know that to be corrupt and false. Based on Uh, Masoretic vowel pointing in Greek transliterations like it says the claim that Yahweh is incommunicable or lost stems from the rabbinic tradition, not scriptural. This opened the door to Gentile scholars to inject speculative pronunciations. So these are all speculative pronunciations like Yahweh or Jehovah, which the letter J is only 500 years. Yahweh and Jupiter linguistic and cultural syncretism. Some 18th century scholars and Gnostics sects made provocative claims. The Latin name Jovi, Jupiter, was pronounced Yahweh in Roman Latin. It says this led to the phrase Jupiter of the host, a magical text blending pagan and biblical language. William Gesenius even suggested that Yahweh may have derived from Jupiter in his Hebrew lexicon. But this is not a biblical or Israelite origin, it's a Gentile reinterpretation during Roman dominance. Edomites empowered Greece, Rome, and Atlantic Israel. Edomites descended of Esau were known to infiltrate Judea, especially during the Hasmonean period when John Hyrcanus forcibly converted Idumeans. By the time of Herod the Great, Edomites ruled Judea under Roman authority. Rome and Greece, both Edomite dominated powers, worshiped Zeus, Jupiter, not Yahweh, right? Says the modern Israeli state from a GMS lens is Edomite controlled, not the true regathering of the tribes. So, yes, from this doctrinal view, the name Yahweh is a Gentile corruption, possibly linked to Jupiter Zeus through linguistic sleight and syncretism. I don't like feeling like an idiot, not knowing how to pronounce these words, so.
Syncretism.
Syncretism. Oh, duh. It says the alma, motherfucker. Hold on, man. Amalgamation, the action, process, or resort of combining or uniting. Syncretism, the amalgamation or attempted amalgamation of different religions, cultures, or schools of thought. So that's what they did. They combined a lot of this shit, man. It says the true name is Yahweh, so even AI says it. Look at this. This is a cold cut. It says the true name is Yahweh, preserved by the elect, not by mainstream religion or academia. Scholarly versus doctrinal lens. Perspective. GMS doctrine. Yahweh's origin, corrupted name. Academic scholars, Canaanite roots. Gnostic magical, syncretic blend. Linked to Jupiter, Zeus, yes, via Edomite Rome. Authority in Israel, Edomites rule falsely. Academic scholars, linguistic coincidence, historical evolution. For Gnostic magical, Jupiter, the whole spiritual metaphor. So going back to Second Maccabees chapter 6 verse 2, it says in Garism of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. the coming in of this mischief, this wickedness, was sore and grievous to the people. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, the heathens, who dallied with harlots. They were dealing with whores, right? Prostitutes, and had to do with women within the court of the holy places. So they were having sex in the temple, I believe. It says, and besides that, brought in things that were not lawful, right? It says the altar also was filled with profane things. Now the altar is something that you sacrifice on, man, and then you eat the sacrifice. So they were sacrificing things that were unlawful, just like Esau's trying to do today. He's putting things on the altar because the altar is what? America. So he's putting things in America that is profane, like this lab grown meat, man. And he's promoting for you people to eat abominable foods that is contrary to the dietary law. It says, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fast, which is the Day of Atonement, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. And that's what they have a gripe about now. You know, they're pointing their fingers at us and telling us that we could be anything but an Israelite, man. It's unlawful. And soon it will be. Soon they're going to demonize the men of Yahweh Shem Shah. It says, and in that day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. And that's why I mean, it happened in that time, but history repeats itself. That's why you saw nothing but heathens in that video, man. It says, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. And right now they just demonize you. But soon it's going to come to that point with that C hit, man. It says, then might a man have seen the present misery. So I'm going to end that right there. So the modern, the modern temple is your temple, man. Right? Your body. This is First Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. It says, know you not that ye are the temple of the Most High, and that the Spirit of the Most High dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of the Most High by eating these uh, unlawful foods, practicing sexual immorality, practicing in fornication, whether it be spiritual or adultery, that's you defiling your temple. It says, him shall the Most High destroy. For the temple of the Most High is holy, it's separate, which temple ye are. You know? So this is from cbcg.org. It says, chapter 3, the dangers of unclean meats in a medical perspective. Um, I'm gonna just skip around. This is for pork, right, or swan. It says a homotoxin. It says of all the world's animals, the pig is one of the most unclean, yet it is held as the other white meat. Pigs are ravenous scavengers and will eat any kind of food, including garbage, maggots, rotting carcasses, excrement, even their own offspring. Farmers often use pigs as virtual garbage disposals, which includes things like dead chickens, but even farmers who claim their pigs are fed a grass only diet cannot stop the animals from eating rodents, carriers of numerous parasites and diseases and feces. Swine are excellent incubators of toxic parasites and viruses and often carry a variety of disease causing organisms which appearing to be healthy. It's like while appearing to be healthy. According to the Centers of Disease Control, CDC, numerous viruses and other infectious agents are brought into the United States each year in pigs, mostly from China. It says, of course, you're probably familiar with H1N1, better known as the swine flu, a virus that has made the leap from pig to human. In his book, The Genesis Diet, Dr. Gordon Tessler writes that the indiscriminate eating patterns of omnivores like pigs make them disease carriers. Pigs are known to carry up to 200 diseases and 18 different parasites and worms, including the deadly roundworm called Trigonella spiralis, trick, tri, trichinosis, trichinosis. The disease caused by this particular worm can mimic other diseases such as arthritis, rheumatism, or typhoid fever. Perhaps many other diseases are misdiagnosed when their real cause is the many parasites found in the flesh of the unclean swine. A person may be committing slow suicide when he or she eats bacon, ham, sausage, or pork chops. Tesla adds that pork should be considered a homotoxin, human poison, and the probable cause of many common sicknesses and degenerative diseases. Yeah, so I'm not going to get into all that. You can search it out for yourself. Point blank, period. There's a reason why the Heavenly Father told us not to eat certain things. And if you think things grown in the laboratory is going to be healthy and good for you, then, I got a bridge to sell you. It's in the middle of the Sahara. This is Judges chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers, which is those missiles, in the places of drawing water, which represents slavery, there shall they rehearse, or we're to recount, right, the righteous acts of Yahweh, which is the law, statutes, and commandments, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of Yahweh go down to the gates. So, yeah, man, it's getting to the wire, man. Dealing with Esau and his mad science shit. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified, and I'm gonna say shalom.